And when the timer's going off, we can still talk, John.
Okay.
And
How you doing, everybody? Thanks for stopping by and joining us today for another Rolling Over the Hill right here on the Live to Roll channel. And thanks to all of you for being part of the Live to Roll family. Also, I'd like to take this time to thank our sponsors, mobility professionals and urology professionals. They're a great and helpful group of experts that are very much part of our community and can help you with all your mobility and rehab equipment as well as your urological needs. So big thanks to them for sponsoring Live to Roll. On today's show, John Box will be joining us. He has a spinal cord injury, a friend, and founder of Colors Wheelchair, which he later sold and now owns U2 Mobility right here in Southern California. We'll be discussing his journey as an SCSI survivor aging with a disability. Please make sure to include your questions, comments, and views in the chat. And don't forget to hit that like button. Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Soto. I'm a T12 injury from a motorcycle racing accident 50 years ago. So let's get started and welcome my co-host, Bobby. What's up?
hey, Robert, thanks for the introduction. Good job, man. You're coming streamlined with that opening act of yours. I'm Bobby Rohan. I'm a C56 quadriplegic here in Southern California, 35 years, and it's an honor to have a good friend of mine and someone I've known for a very long time since I remember day one when I met him at a tennis tournament, and he had a couple of these chairs that I looked like were going to be like the next best thing. So that's when I got to meet John and his brother and Colors Wheelchair and kind of got introduced to that at 34 years ago. But John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on here. This is not my standard cup of tea, but I look forward to trying to serve in any way I can.
I think we'll do great here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and before the injury, and what was John like before he was sitting down for his cup of tea.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so the short story is I got hurt when I was 17 and a half. At that time, I was working full time and going to night school. So a little bit of a workaholic, even when in my adolescent years. Uh, so I got paralyzed in November 1st, 1981. So I'm not as old at this as Rob is, but I think once you get over 25 years, you get that
Oh, yeah.
respect, So
Yeah.
uh, now we kind of want to stop counting, I think, but nevertheless, the counter still moves.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I got hurt in '81, and uh, I'm not sure if I can say this, but it's the truth. You get overwhelmed with the experience and all that, and you try to imagine what life could be or what it may not be. A doctor came in and was very, you're uh, currently, your circumstances, you're paralyzed from the chest down, you're never going to walk again, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And, but he said something interesting. He said, you can look at life as a mountain, and right now you're actually at the bottom of the mountain. You can't really get any lower. You're sitting down on the bottom, and you got this huge mountain in front of you, and you got to decide what you want to do. If you want to go up a portion of the mountain, half of the mountain, or you don't want to climb the mountain or whatever, and that's when your potential survival skills kick in, and or maybe not, where you contemplate suicide and all kinds of weird stuff goes in your head. You're a teenage kid, you're it alters your trajectory significantly. But the way he presented it made sense for me, because I ultimately said, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to climb the mountain. Yeah, I had a couple low points after that, but for the most part, I'm going to show up, and I'm going to give my life the most that it can be achieved. So then I guess the rest is history. I've done what I've done. One of the things that he failed to tell me, which I've learned over time, is, what do you see when you get to the top of the mountain? Do you guys have a comment?
No, hard to
Oh.
say.
Well,
That's a good one.
I'm
That is
not
a good
afraid
one.
to answer questions, so I hope you guys aren't either.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, and I would say, how do you really know when you're at the top? Sometimes.
yeah.
Exactly,
You
and
kind of keep,
that's what the
yeah,
answer is you see a lot of other mountains. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you get over one, guess what? There's
there's always
millions
another.
of them. There's
yeah,
millions.
There's
Yeah.
always another
yeah.
one.
So you just
So,
got to show up in life, and
yeah,
it'll
just keep
come.
climbing.
And yeah, exactly. Keep showing up, keep climbing, keep doing, and I mean, that's the advice that this doctor was trying to tell me, and I think
Yeah,
he was right. Some
Yeah,
people, a close friend used to tell me, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, and that's another way to get through our lives. Especially when it's so traumatic. When you're older, it's harder. I believe that's
yeah,
so profound. And the older you are, the harder it is to deal with this stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You were set
yeah,
in your ways in some, for so many years, and you know, here you are maintaining, maybe a job or about to retire, or even retire, and you have an incident of, that causes an injury like this, and it can turn up your world upside down. But when you're 17 and there's only one way, and that's up the mountain. There's, you're still at the bottom. You're not responsible for a lot of things, and except maybe go to school, or like you said, you were working. So at 17, and I was 17 and a half too, John, and that's an easy time to have an injury, because you
yeah,
don't have a lot of responsibility. You have somebody already taking care of you, and if you have a great family, they continue on. If not, that's where some of those troubles lie in your future. But I always believe that I have the one day at a time kind of mentality. We get through today, we're gonna, tomorrow should be better.
yeah. I totally agree. I think it's essential. And then the other variable too is that's usually not your first or last challenge.
Yeah,
Life
yeah.
life keeps throwing them at you, and that's what the mountain is. They come in many forms. So yeah,
And sometimes the chair could be one of the easiest things that get thrown at you in life.
correct. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Another
You're
thing that,
Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
Yeah, another thing I found that was uh, important is the impact on others and sometimes the awkwardness of that. So I really feel, even though you're the person going through the tragedy, in addition to that, it's your responsibility to make other people comfortable and teach them, and uh, to smooth out the bumps. And it's people always say, "Oh, that person bailed on me. They're not my friend." I said, "No, I don't think so. I think if they were your friend before, they're still your friend. They just don't know how to approach you. They don't know how to deal with it. So that's your responsibility." And some people never figure that out, and they
Mhm.
isolate themselves from people that might be good contributors to their life.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, looks like we got Robert back. He keeps freezing up, he says. But so when you had your accident, John, were you here in Southern California?
yeah, on a motorcycle ride on the beach,
Ooh,
I got clipped by a car and went to the hospital. I could still move my legs, and about 3 days after, I had some traumatic, like severed aorta, a bunch of internal damages. The 3 days after they fixed me all up, then they went in to try to stop from bleeding, and I was actually paralyzed from that surgery. He's trying to save my
oh,
life, and then I ended up becoming a paraplegic. Yeah.
oh, because of the injuries that where they had to go in and fix them, that they couldn't avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, the according to the cardiologist, he said that what occurred is, they went in through my back. That they don't do that now. Now they go into the chest, your forward chest. Uh, they went in through my back, and they have to spread your ribs open to get in there and gain access to your whole chest cavity. And by doing that, it kind of takes these vertebrae and pulls them apart. Well, blood had clotted on the spinal cord, and it's actually very common. So they just, before they close you up, they clean the blood out. But in my case, they didn't do that. So, but they didn't realize it till a couple days after. And once the blood hits your spinal cord, it's like a catalyst. It hardens, and
Yeah,
it's really strange. My spinal cord is completely intact, but just for that short period it was squeezed, that was enough to turn it off, and it's never improved or advanced from that original time.
yeah.
So, but
So,
the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, but
yeah, sometimes that's the way we can take it. Um, so you're 17. You were working. What were you doing for work?
I was in a machine shop doing CNC and like precision grinding.
Grinding. Cool.
Yeah,
And then,
precision grinding. Yeah.
so after the accident, where does life take you there?
Well, like many times in many people in that era, you gotta learn computers.
Yeah.
And I was not one of those guys. I was a guy that said, I don't want to be a computer guy. I want to, work with my hands. I want to, whatever, be a, more of a creative kind of person. But I took the advice. I went to, got my test, went to junior college, started doing all that, computer science, and played around in that for a while. I mostly goofed off, but I did what they told me, but I didn't really fully apply myself. But
Hmm.
uh, then I went on to state college, went on to Cal State to do metallurgical engineering, and I didn't like the challenges on the reward, effort reward scenario. So I changed my major to finance, business finance. Kept going along, and then a brother of mine, not the one that's well known, not Mike in the industry, but my other brother Rob, asked me if I would help him and do a business together. And that was aerospace business, small like job shop aerospace. We did like theodolite measurement services, this really complicated transits tied to computers. We inspect stuff for all these uh, aerospace companies. So, anyways, I agreed to do that, obviously, and uh, that's really what took me away from the school thing and said, okay, now I can get back in gear, start making money, and
Mhm.
doing the stuff that I really wanted to do. So, set up a shop, all the equipment, the staff, the people, all that stuff. Small. I mean, it's still a small, uh, family-owned kind of business. And at some point after that, that got morphed into uh, a wheelchair company. There's an interesting story on that, but that got morphed into a wheelchair company, and that was that was like in the late '80s, early '90s,
Yeah.
something like that. Colors wheelchair.
So yeah. So tell us about colors and how that all became.
Yeah. Okay. So I used to play wheelchair tennis shortly after my injury. I thought I was the only guy on the planet playing in a wheelchair. I had a girlfriend at that time that wanted to play for high school. She says, "Hey, will you go out and play tennis with me?" And I'm like, "I'll figure this out. Someday I'll help." So grab a racket and show up, and if she hit it to me, I could kind of get it back, kind of thing. But this guy pulls up in this car. I don't know if it's probably 6 months into this thing, and he pulls up in this car. He yells at me, "Hey, you want to play wheelchair tennis?" I go, "Well, I kind of am. What do you want?" He goes, "No, I mean you want to play it like with other people and tournaments and." What are you talking about? And that guy was Bill Fairbanks. I don't know if you guys know
Oh
Bill,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
uh, he polio guy. He's been in a chair, a long time. And anyways, I became friends with them. I joined Cyprus, had a small program there. Lots of time put into wheelchair tennis. That was probably a large part of my identity. That I can do something. I mean, I know I could do stuff because I just would show up, but there was some good stuff that happened with the whole sports scene for me. And later, I started modifying my chairs to play better tennis. And at that time, company that I was loyal to, Quickie, everybody knows that brand.
Yeah.
Uh, they were kind of slowing down as a company, and I think that the consumers were looking for something different, better. So I would get asked, "Oh, you should make wheelchairs." Like, I don't really have an interest in making chairs. I'm doing this aerospace thing, and uh, one thing led to another. The aerospace industry started to change a little bit. It became problematic, and I just kind of got the curiosity of maybe we should start doing chairs, and in lieu of exclusively aerospace, control your own product, and so we did that. We made a chair. We presented it, and it had a pretty high interest. I mean, for a few different reasons, but we thought, okay, maybe we got something here. So that's when we really started to morph from the aerospace company into a wheelchair company, and
What a
without any
transition.
regret. I mean, it was really a nice transition business wise. The aerospace is a lot drier. There's no forgiveness for any of the issues. You either make it to the drawing or you don't. You either have the best price or you don't.
Hmm.
And when you make your own product in the industry that we're in, it's pretty cool. It's profound. You see a lasting impact on people, and we founded the company on the principles of helping people. So that what that meant to us is uh, trying to not trying to stay in your lane. You know what I mean? So if somebody wants something a little different, to be able to provide that without bankrupting the customer or the company.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. So that some of the stuff that we did, it trickled into other parts of the industry, which we never had intellectual property. I think there was only one product that had intellectual property. Uh, so unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, other companies took some of our ideas and made them their own. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Would you say you guys were the first, like, that custom wheelchair manufacturer, in the sense that when I remember getting my first, you know, um, quickie, there was what you see on the order form is what you're going to get. And there wasn't any talk about doing this or that custom. I think it was from that GPV or GP to the GPV. That's where they got custom in a way, you know. But would you say when it came to, what the customer want, were you guys the first?
no. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that all small companies can claim that, and once they get a little bit too big, they set up these, rigid distribution systems and the bean counters say, oh no, you can't do it that way because it's going to cost us too much money, and it just frazzles their brain, and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, we gotta keep the A's A's, the B's B's, and the C's C's. We can't make an A1, A2, or you know what I mean,
Mhm.
unless the math makes sense. So we were pretty flexible. Yeah, we'd present out what we think uh, the market wanted, but we were real open. I mean, I remember uh, a story about this guy Joe Fisk that quadriplegic. He was kind of on the outside of the inner circle of quad rugby people, and but he was loyal to Colors, and he'd ask us, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" So we were doing small tweaks to his chair to allow him to compete better in the rugby thing. So in the beginning parts of that, I mean, you can't do that. That's against the rules. You know what I mean? We're like, okay, whatever. So we do it a different way. We're always trying to make everything work politically for the customer, whatever.
Yeah.
But in the long run, most of those little things that he wanted become the norm in the industry. So uh, that that was our philosophy, that try to not tell people what we think's the best, but listen and let the market kind of uh, pull the products in the direction they want to go.
Yeah.
So and I think that occurs in all businesses, but it was just we tried to make more effort, you know, on that topic.
Why colors? The name.
Well,
and
that's a good
and the
question.
French and the French colors as that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We maybe French, English, French, whatever. So we wanted to be different, and the name Colors was because when we first thought of the corporation, we thought we're going to go all directions. It's not going to just be wheelchairs. We're going to do like everything disabled, everything that could possibly be incorporated. So we had a big net idea, but as many realize, that sometimes you dream a little bit too much when you come up with companies, brands, names, stuff like that. So originally it was Colors in Motion. The motion
Oh yeah.
was tied it to the industry. That's how we got, Colors was like this one all-encompassing name, and then the motion was there to tie it to the industry because there was magic in motion, quickie in motion. I mean, all this motion, shadow and motion. So motion kind of made us feel like we fit in that world. And
Mm-hmm.
the the other thing that was kind of interesting, you asked that name. So it was colors apostrophe in motion comma ink, right? So when the whole internet thing came around, we're like, well, you can't use an apostrophe, colors apostrophe in, and we've just worked so hard to make in as part of our name. I thought we got a problem here. This ain't going to work for the domain name, you know. So we said, all right, we're going to call ourselves Colors Wheelchair.
And I always just kind of assume like, because when I saw the first chair, I forget if it was the Eclipse, and looking at your color schemes, I'm like, oh, cool color schemes. That's how it maybe came about. Any truth in that?
Well, no, we backed ourselves in a corner. So when we came up with the name Colors, then it forced us to have a lot of colors. So yeah, the name pushed us in that direction harder than it probably would have.
Then you needed it too at the time.
And at that era too, neon colors were kind of the thing,
Yeah.
right? So when we first came out, we had a lot of neon colors. That was kind of, front and center of everything. We stood out, to see our chair next to somebody else. So, whoa, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Just really the neon colors, polished parts, just a different attention to detail.
The wheels, and the things like that were my first thing. I mean, I knew of colors, but that was kind of after I was already doing whatever I was doing with. I went from my quadra chair to a quickie, 2 HP or whatever. In fact, I still have one. But anyway, so I found out about colors later. But I was one of these people that needed a folding chair, not a rigid, right? So I was always kind of disappointed in that. But I just remember the uniqueness of colors, because you could always tell that a color's wheelchair from any other chair, and so you had that identity and that branding for sure.
Yep, you're right.
And there was obviously a bit, some that you guys did that nobody else was doing, and that was breaking that advertisement barrier kind of thing with some of your advertisements and New Mobility Magazine and other, in with your ads. And, I think that really stood you apart from everybody else. And that was with, breaking the boundaries of who was, I guess, Team Colors with Doug. Doug and some of the other people that you had advertisement. I think there was that ad of with Doug and "Don't Open the Door" or something like that. You want to talk? Tell us a little more about how the advertisement came about and being so bold.
Yeah. So how do I start this? So my personality is a little bit rebellious, a little bit in your face kind of stuff. I don't like bullies. So when that occurs, and I tend to become my strongest. The older I am, the less that is true. The more passive we become. Like the lion. I'm not saying I'm a lion by any stretch, but how a lion becomes so weak and is just all that mightiness just kind of goes away. But so, anyways, one of the things you're probably referring to, we had a shirt that said we had Enrique Garcia, an artist, a pretty phenomenal artist. We had him do a drawing of this guy, looks like a hulkish kind of evil character, saying, "Don't hold the door," because the philosophy was, we got to do it ourselves. We don't need any help. in hindsight, it probably wasn't real smart to do because there are some people that do need to have the door held for them, right?
And
So
and
that,
now definitely now we do with aging with this disability. Like, please hold the door. Please hold the door.
yeah. No, it's complicated. So that's we have. I mean, at that time, I guess I was an outlier. Like here, I thought I was super crip or special or something like that. Um, it's ironic how as you mature, what you thought was a really good idea may not have been one. I'll
Yeah.
tell you another story that I don't usually tell people this. I don't often share this, but it might be helpful to others. Uh, when I was first hurt, same routine. You go to the mall, you go hang out, push around the mall, maybe go to an arcade, play a pinball game, whatever, blah blah blah. So uh, frequently, you'd go in a chair and people would stare at you, right? And I didn't like to be stared at. It was like uh, I was misunderstood. But at that time, I thought these people don't have a right to stare at me, right? So one of the times I put a squirt gun in my jacket, and this person was staring at me, and as I roll by, I see him staring at me in the corner of my eye, and I pull this squirt gun out and I squirt this person, and I go, got you, right? And it was horrible for me to do that, right? My ego uh, felt it was necessary at that point, like I was showing them, But it was
Yeah.
just it was so sad in hindsight that uh, I couldn't have the humility to try to teach that person because that was a teachable moment,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
Exactly.
I failed miserably, right? If I could go back and fix that, I would. But maybe this moment is the reason that moment occurred. I don't know, but
Yeah. You
uh,
learn from it. You learn from it. What you could do and what you should have done or whatever. I mean, but you're a
yeah,
kid. I mean, there's just you
yeah,
can't go back and I mean that's kind of what your development is.
yeah. So I mean, if people that get new in this, that gets back to what I said earlier, is we really have an obligation to people that don't understand it to teach them. It's like hopefully people on this podcast are not all disabled. Hopefully there's some able-bodied people in there too, that are eyes and ears wide open to
Yeah.
learn. So yeah,
Yeah. That's interesting. I know that we in groups and other people that is one of the hardest things, that staring and getting by that. But it's all about how you approach it. Where I've always taken that approach of, oh, they're staring at me. Well, most likely I was staring at them as well. With maybe because they
yeah,
had funny shoes or the way they walked. So I always just tell everybody, hey, most likely you're staring at them too. So,
Yeah.
at the
So
end of the day, it's a trade off. We're all just curious human beings.
I got
yeah.
a question right now. I got a question right now. How do you feel about that now for all of us? Do you still feel people are staring at you, or are they, or is it just that you were just conscious of things because you were so new and in a wheelchair, or you know? I mean, I know, you feel that self consciousness stuff. There's no doubt about it. But maybe they staring at you, or were they just glancing, or because for me, I don't like people watching me no matter what I'm doing. Looking over my shoulder, whatever. But I used to kind of react to that, but they weren't really staring at me. It's just me being subconscious of it. And so if I happened to make eye contact with them, it may have been for that split second, but I took it as they were staring. But now I see it. Of course, it's a different time now. There's a lot more people out there and about now. But I don't, you know, I don't know if people are staring anymore like that because there's so many people coming out now.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think there's less, but I still think it's significant. And it's just
Hmm.
because, whatever, people are too busy, they don't have time, or they don't have anybody in their family or in their circle that has gone through. I mean, it's just ignorance, I guess. I mean, my wife, cancer survivor, she's been, dealing with cancer, and uh, I was humbled in that setting too. It's like you have no idea until you like jump into that world, and
Yeah.
it's crazy what you can learn if you just really take the time.
Open your
Imagine
eyes.
an elderly person, right? Somebody a profound achiever, blah blah blah. And they get to the last 5 years of their life and they become dependent, and
Yeah.
we're experiencing these things because we're getting older. But man, the sooner you could learn that stuff, I think the higher
Yeah.
quality of life you have.
Yeah, most definitely. But with that,
Well, that's a good.
what are some of your I don't know, with the spinal cord injury, we're always talking about aging. So what has life been like, with your aging process and, having a career and being active? Did your body hold up to the challenge? And what seems to be, easier than you thought it was going to be? And what were the things that are hard, that became harder than they shouldn't have?
Yeah, well, yeah. See if I can answer that. So, I think life is relative to yourself. So as soon as you start like comparing yourself to somebody else, then it kind of locks you in, and it's hard to go up, it's hard to go down, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, I mean, if I had things that some people would say, "Oh, wow, that was complicated," happen. Yeah, I mean, but I think everybody has it. I mean, I've had 3 flap surgeries a long time ago, right? I learned from those, but not to mention that I won't. I mean, I probably won't have another one before. I mean, excuse me again, I might. You know what I mean? Uh, with recently, I've had a issue with my intestines. Like near death experience. Uh, that's probably a direct result of being in a chair and the way we do our bowels and stuff. Uh, Kidney stone surgery, septic, a couple times, almost passed in that kind of situation. Uh, but all those things might be minimal to somebody else, that has greater challenges. Just my my equal is it's pretty good. I mean, I am independent. I can do everything myself. Is it a little bit harder as we get older? Yeah. Are my shoulders going? Yeah. Uh, but able body parts fail too. Their knees go, their hips go. Well, guess what? My knees and hips are fine. I got I got perfect knees and hips. You know,
I
but
don't know about my knee when I fell on it last week, though. It was pretty swollen. Like, my wife goes, "Do you think you should go to the hospital?" I'm like, if it gets black and blue, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Kind of wait and see
Find
type thing.
out,
we
but
should, yeah, we should go to the hospital. I'll tell you another funny story. So, uh, on a way to a show in Las Vegas, I have this off-road sand rail, and we decide to stop at Dumont and go for a little dune ride. And so we get in the rail, and me and 2 other people in the rail. One of them was Ernie in the back seat, Ernie
yeah,
Espinoza.
I heard this story a little bit. Yeah.
So yeah, we rip around. We're having a great time. It's probably a 30-minute ride, and thank you. We have about a 30-minute ride, and it's phenomenal. Just a killer ride. And this last little pick me up jump, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go right there and do one last little jump.
Yeah. Do a
And I
last
jumped
jump.
I jumped right into the switch's eye, and we literally tore the front end off the rail. I broke my back, my lower back. my lumbar area, and passenger broke his back again. He was a quadriplegic. He got
Oh,
messed up, and then Ernie. We thought Ernie was damaged too. He's all freaked out. He's, oh my God, I'm bleeding out of my ass. I'm bleeding out of my ass. We're like, oh my God. We looked down there, and Ernie, that's transmission fluid. You're okay. So,
oh
uh,
man.
anyways, where I was going with this is that when you got to be careful and you got to take things serious. We didn't really take that too serious. They took me to the hospital and said, you're okay. But I should have went further because when I broke my back, it turned off all my bowel system. It
Oh,
modified my whole super sphincter. So there's some involuntary things that happen below my thoracic level. So if I'd have taken that more serious, I might have prevented some other problems that were
Yeah,
avoidable. So
I think
that just because you can't feel it doesn't mean you got to ignore it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
no,
yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a lot of injuries. If you could tell yourself, younger John, when you first got hurt, that 17 and a half year old kid, um, words of aging with a disability,
you're
what would that look, what would that sound like?
Man, that's a horrible question. I'll tell
I
you
did.
why. Because I mean, in hindsight, you'd say, well, don't be as active, to protect your shoulders from the damage and stuff. But I mean, I don't know. If that was the motive to not, to be uh, less pain, happier, you're present. But I don't know if you have to measure that against all the fun and enjoyment of
Yeah.
the sports and living active.
You know,
One has to cancel the
I,
other.
I know, I know. I didn't even think about the aging piece. I just did what I had to do for the moment, and I mean, you kind of live for that. You're younger and all that. I didn't take care of anything. My shoulders are, what used to hear. Oh yeah, you're gonna this and that. It didn't matter to me. I aging was the furthest thing from my mind. But when I was younger and doing my thing, it's only now hindsight I go, God, I wish I would have taken better care of him. I would have done this and done that and this and but
Yeah, would have you though? I mean, if you really, I don't know, man. It was pretty cool being independent and
yeah, you just
challenging
the
yourself.
transfers, some of the wild transfers that you'd end up doing, as a para. I know, but I mean, I did things for that. Looking back now, I go, geez, what was I thinking? But you did them. It was no sweat. It just that it took its toll over the years.
I think a good question is, um, or a good answer to that is, you know what? Do what you're going to do. Just, you know, look around sometimes and take in what you can,
Yeah,
and make every opportunity a learning opportunity. And I think sometimes when we're young, we just fly by the seat of our pants and we don't start learning until we're in our 40s, and then we finally realize, oh yeah, should have been taking notes a little bit better.
well, I started learning when I got involved with the community, got re-involved with it in 2018. That's when I started finding out a lot of stuff, joining the groups and meeting more other people and stuff. Like that's where I started learning. I mean, I was like you said, flying from the seat of your pants. You just did what you had to do, whatever worked, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a saying that every decision you make it lasts a lifetime.
Yeah,
But probably more important than that, though, is every decision you make, it it affects a family of people. You know what I mean? So a lot of times that might be neglected when you're younger and or disabled. That your family, your spouse, your siblings, all that stuff. And sometimes the disability is harder for them than it is for the person
yeah,
that's
yeah.
directly going through it.
Yeah.
So to be mindful of that, like when if I could have been more mindful of that when I was being a rebellious pain in the butt kind of disabled person, that
Yeah.
that would have provided more fruits.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you know, but it did matter because when we were younger, you know, you really did strive to be as independent as possible, you know. And like for me, I didn't need help. I didn't need help. I used to tell my family, "Don't help me unless I ask." Right. So
Yeah.
now, in my aging years, with my disability crossing paths with my aging, um, you know, I'm asking for a little more help and things like that. So the problem that I struggle with is just losing my strength. Now, I don't know if that's just because I blew my body out years ago, or if it is the aging piece, or you know, it's kind of a hodgepodge of those two. And I just that's what I kind of trying to come to grips with nowadays. And a little bit more wrong with me health wise, you know, kind of the hereditary stuff, and then just the stuff just not taking care of myself like I should have. You know.
Yeah.
So, John, getting back to colors. So, business going good, ups and downs, I'm sure. Uh, Tell us about the first sale.
Yeah. So you're talking about the first sale of colors to Permobil?
Yeah, and how did that all come about?
Yeah. So we were kind of this new idea with new attitude, and we were getting a lot of attention. We were getting some media by the way we were presenting stuff, you know, in the mainstream media based on the lifestyle stuff. I think the big difference between us is we found a way to join a person with a product, so that it wasn't like, you know, products over there and the I mean, the person is to the right and the chair is to the left. We actually merged the two, so the person's personality became part of the equipment, their identity. A little bit like the way Nike did it, right? With Michael Jordan and
Yeah,
some of the things they did. So uh, by doing that, we got a lot of attention. So uh, not speaking for Permobil, but for my opinion, they wanted access to that market. So we worked with them, and I was inspired by the founder of. I was inspired by the founder of that organization, Per Uden. He had a really good story, which if you remind me, I'll tell you what that story is. Uh, but anyway, so we decided to sell it to Permobil, and for a couple of reasons. One, because we believed in their concept that would be a nice marriage with us, and also because I was a little guy, I didn't have hardly any money, and for a company to grow, you need money, right? You need access to money. So the idea, the dream was that we'll just keep going down this path, and we'll do great things, and Permobil will fund it, and all this, you know, all this stuff will be awesome. Uh, and it was awesome for a little while. We did great, and uh, shortly after the relationship, it just didn't fit with what Permobil wanted to achieve. You know, they were a power wheelchair company in the U.S. And by the way, we were the first company, as far as I know, we're the first company for them to acquire too. And
mhm.
and part of it could have been, you'd have to get their opinion on this. Part of it could have been that, you know, I was a little hard headed. You know, I want to look out for the principles of the business and what I wanted to see achieve. And sometimes that didn't go well with the things we talked about earlier in this. You know, the corporate world gets a hold of the business, and they change the ideals, right?
Yeah,
Uh, so, anyways, we drifted apart, and then that all changed. We, you know, got control of the company again, and you know, that's all history.
yeah. You know, thinking back to your, you know, with colors, wheelchairs, and you're pushing the envelope with your advertisement. It's almost like you were the first TikTokers or Instagrams out there, with some of the ways that you presented your product and the way that you really made the wheelchair for the people, kind of like that, for the people, by the people, and with the people, and in mind, and I mean, we all at that time looked at it as like, I can finally have something that is not this cookie cutter, because those other chairs became like that cookie cutter where you didn't get a lot of options. It was too heavy because they put on all this extra. And here you guys present like, here's the chair. What do you want? Tell
A
me.
chair with personality,
Yeah, it was personalized. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just bought it. They checked the box, but the people that want it personalized, they were able to obtain it. That was, critical, and that the chair becomes part of the person, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And, so within colors, um, for the wheelchairs, what was the end goal? Did you guys ever have an end goal, or were you just trying to always uh, innovate?
So, in order for us to survive, and let me back up. Perception is reality sometimes. So, what I mean by that, I think from the market's perception, we were a lot bigger than we actually were. We were still a very small company in a very narrow lane, you know, going only to a couple destinations. And our objective was broader and to do more, but we knew in order for us to survive, we had to be innovative, because if we weren't, then people would, go away. They'd go get their products solved from another company. So I mean, I think that was a formula to disabled to be involved, in front and center in the business. I've always felt that's a principle of succeeding in this, market. If you're doing mobility products, you can't do it with, well, I shouldn't say you can't do it because others are doing it, but you can't do it the way it should be done with a largely able-bodied population. You got to have disabled people weave through the business, if not 100%, a large percentage, to get,
yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
because you're always looking out for the interest. I mean, most of the disabled people, they're not going to like start walking tomorrow, so we're for lack of a better word, we're trapped in this situation. So we're also committed to it. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're uh, we're gonna see each other in the mall, on the street. If I do something incorrectly for my disabled brothers and sisters, then that's gonna hurt a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's we try to go the extra mile, uh, to, and it's the right thing to do. It's not even painful, right? It's like it feels good to do it that way. So
What
that's
was what was the favorite chair that you guys built, and what was the nightmare chair that you guys built?
Oh yeah. So the favorite chair for me is the Boeing. It's a suspension chair. I thought that four-wheel independent suspension chair was going to change the world. Everybody in the world's going to want suspension. Nobody will want rigid chair or folding frame or anything ever again because of the comfort, and I was wrong, like I am many times. It's the people that like it. They love it. Like me, I love suspension, and it makes a difference in my life. I'll give you a funny story about suspension. I've been in suspension chairs since '94. My little recent medical thing uh, a year ago put me in a rigid frame chair with wheelie bars and all that stuff, right? Well, I'm going out my front yard, pavers, transition into, well, with the rigid chair, all of a sudden my rear wheels not touching the ground. I'm literally gonna crash and burn, because I don't have all four wheels on the ground. And I thought, how in the heck can people do this? All these people in rigid chairs. What is wrong with them, man? It's dangerous being in these rigid chairs, without that. I mean, if you got a rigid chair, go get a frog legs or, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
something's. So, anyways, I thought the suspension chair was the best, and I still think it is. The worst chair for us, well, there's a couple worst chairs. Uh, I'm not sure I should provide all those details with knowing that color's
Yeah.
still in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Colors
yeah,
are still out, but I
Yeah, as
mean,
I'm
yeah.
just thinking, uh, it wasn't for anything of what we did. It's kind of market drivers and things like that. So sometimes the market will tell you what they want, and sometimes the market is not the disabled. I'll give you a brief story example of that. So we used to sell a lot of product into Rancho Los Amigos, and we're proud of the business that we did with those guys. And all of a sudden, we got a call, said, "Oh, we can't sell your guys' product anymore." That was Eclipse, by the way, what they were buying in there. We can't sell that anymore. Quickie has their version. There was Kushal that brought their version of the chair, and these chairs were like $1,200 at that time, and they were really poorly made chairs, in my opinion. They didn't give all the benefits that the chairs prior to that, but they were trying to knock us out of the market, right? So we got with a therapist, blah, blah, blah. What do you guys want from a chair? Give us all the details. So we came back and we presented a chair and gave all the features that the therapists want. And the name of that chair, based on all that, was called the Avenger. So we were avenging what the other people were doing because they were not putting the disabled person first. I mean, it was dollars and cents or just trying
yeah.
to squeeze out. So that was unfortunate, but and that's my version again. So I'm sure there's other versions of that story as well.
Well, as a person who used a Colors wheelchair for many years, trust me, it's my love and it's my passion, and I still think it's one of the best out there. Was the Zephyr, but and as somebody who used to measure up and do wheelchairs for a lot of people, uh, I always just thought must be a nightmare for you guys because at that time when they first were on the market, it was like all exclusive one. Your frame is all one, right? There's no adjustments. Your
Yeah.
footrest was at that height, your width, and everything. But I just thought like one small little measurement gone wrong by the therapist or the RT, you got a chair that somebody can't sit in. Was that Did you
Yeah.
find that problem with the Zephyr?
Not really. So I mean, you're right. We used to call it a blank sheet of paper, so that's the way you order that chair. Basically, it's a blank sheet of paper. Physics is really your only controlling variable. If we could do it through physics, then we would do our best to provide it. But with that said, we did turn away a lot of people. Like if somebody's newly injured and they didn't know their position,
Yeah.
well, I don't know this, I don't know that. We tell a lot of people no. I mean, we really would. And maybe that, in a sense, created more demand for it. Oh my God, I want one of those chairs. They won't let me have it. Blah blah blah. And it was a fun little product. They're still doing it. Color's still doing it. They've made some improvements to it. Uh, I think they've sharpened it a little bit. Done a better job on some of the things. The weight is a little bit more in order to get more out of it. Sometimes for that material, we were using aluminum and heat treating it to make it as thin as we did and make it as strong as we did. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. So where is Colors now with you, and tell us about U2 Mobility?
Yeah. So, I mean, colors is still, that's like my baby in a sense. I do anything I can to help and serve them, customers. Uh, you know, it's kind of my driving force. I actually still use a colors chair. A lot of people have tried to get me in other chairs, but I still love the product. Uh, U2 Mobility was, I was retired, semi-retired, and I just didn't like that. So we started U2 Mobility, and we have a full ability machine shop, weld shop to fabricate and modify stuff and go a little bit further when the other manufacturers don't. Uh, there are some amazing products on the market. I mean, it's very different than when I started Colors. It's more competitive. There's lots of real cool stuff, carbon fiber materials, titanium. There's a guy that's printing titanium in Australia.
Yeah, I
Uh,
saw that chair. Oof.
pretty phenomenal to see some of this stuff. Uh, but somehow it's got to get shoved through this industry and get payers to pay for it and all that stuff. So that's when things get complicated. I wish somehow we could take all of these people, like they say, the disabled population, 60 million. If somehow you could bundle all that in one group, boy, that would be a force to. They wouldn't be telling, you know, a blind person no. They wouldn't be telling a spinal cord person no. I mean, uh, maybe that'll go back to the old civil rights era. Something like that could happen. But I just feel that it's a problem in our society now. We're going the other direction for technology and equipment. U2 Mobility is a little carve out. We do, a select category of customer, uh, and that's just by our size and the way we're established. But it's unfortunate that people are getting told no more and more and more frequently.
Do you find that a bigger problem now than it was 30 years ago?
Yeah, big,
Especially
big,
with insurances and stuff.
yeah, big time. I mean, my opinion is that in order to get a custom wheelchair in the near future, 10, 20 years, you're going to have to get that paid for privately. You're going to have to do your own fundraising. You're going to have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
Insurance is not going to throw down on that. And it just managed care was kind of the big ball that started rolling. It's taken everything with it now. We don't really have any lobbyists. I mean, thank God for Permaville. They're kind of playing in that space now, which hopefully they'll protect us. But I think we need more than them, just because
Yeah.
our industry seems big because it's us, we're in it, but it's really not compared to pharmaceuticals and some of the other big players.
And you look at our wheelchair and then you look at a bike, and you can get a bike for pretty cheap, right? To just get on and ride with two wheels. And you just look at, like, why can't our chairs be like bikes? But it's obviously because we're such a small industry compared to the bike industry, that wheelchair industry, and all these other little, products that come out, like the the scooter, those the Scouts.
Yeah.
You always go, wow, they should be cheaper, right? But
Yeah.
the market is so small. It fits for a market of people that most likely don't have the cash for it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, here's an easy way to define the importance of the market. So if you use a chair for 14 hours a day and use it for 5 years, it equals 25,550 hours. If you drove your car 50 miles an hour for that period of time, you'd go 1.5 million miles. So I mean, how many cars will last 1.5 million miles?
Yep.
and they expect a wheelchair to last 1.5 million miles. And not only that, it has to do everything you want to do and not create more problems. If the chair is incorrect, you're going to be unhappy, pain, medical problems for 1.5 million miles. You know what I mean? 25,550 hours. It's profound the impact that mobility equipment has on our community. I mean, it's profound. If some bean counter ever takes the time to, create a metric of, okay, the pill is used this long and it goes and it costs this much, and a wheelchair and a respirator, and you know what I mean? I don't think there's going to be too many products that outperform that metrics. I really don't. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're honest about it, the wheelchair is it's a bit, maybe a pacemaker does, but the amount of money they spend on pacemakers is a heck of a lot more than a wheelchair, right? Including surgery to get it in you.
Yeah. And with your chair, there can be so many more complications that come along with it compared to most products out there, where, your leg is, the frame is too tight for your leg and you get a sore on your leg, or your bottom out and you get a, sore on your bottom, or you're pushing a certain way and you wear your shoulders down even 10 times faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen those people, right? When we're pushing around, we look at them and go, "Oh my God, that
Every
person,
day.
that person's going to have a problem, man." It's like
Yeah.
if you say something like, "Who paid you for your chair?" "Oh, I just got it. It's such and such." It's like, and they have no recourse, right? They signed for it. They didn't know otherwise. They have no recourse.
Mm,
They, they were expected to have the knowledge, and they didn't.
yeah.
So it stinks. It's a problem.
And that's it seems like that's frustrating these days, of finding people to get, uh, finding that right dealer, uh, vendor to measure perfect for somebody, or to advise them down, the right path. It just seems like it's dictated by, what their discount might be for that vendor of that chair. So push this chair and not that chair. And this person's not getting the right equipment that they need. It's another huge problem.
You're right. It's a lot of that's contractual provider, and it's just dollars and cents. So
Yeah.
it's an oxygen guy won the contract. He's never even done a wheelchair before. Well, how did he
Yeah.
get the contract? Well, it was the best. He was the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah. That's
damage that's
crazy.
bad.
Well, we need to start wrapping up. Robert, you want to highlight our sponsors real quick one more time? And maybe YouTube one day might want to become a sponsor. You're on mute, Robert.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Mobility Professionals and Urology Professionals. Part of the community, Mobility Professionals is located here in Southern California and provides services for wheelchair and rehab equipment here in Southern California. Their sister company, Urology Professionals, provides services throughout the country here. And if you need catheters, other urological supplies, check them out. See if they work with your insurance, and they're part of the community at events, and just a good group of people. So if you're in the need for chairs, urology, check them out.
Absolutely. And don't forget to check out our upcoming shows. Me and the boys are going to be back on Tuesday. We got Tuesday Rolling Over the Hill. That's at 3:30. And then Monday, this coming Monday, we have Sarab. He's gaming with Hell on Wheels. And Wednesday, we have another other gaming show with Tom. Tom is always every Wednesday. And both of those shows are at 5 o'clock Also, don't forget to check out our women's show coming up next Thursday at 3 p.m. Our Real Girl Talk. I can never get that one right. It's a mouthful there, John. So they're going to be live next Tuesday. So come and check us out. And then we're always here the second and fourth Thursday of every month. And John, thank you so much for coming on.
You.
And
we can also, as I say a few other times, we can also do a part 2 because there's so much more of the story, I'm sure.
You guys have as much of the story as I do. So yeah, anything we can do to help. I thank you very much for allowing me to participate, and look forward to what's
any last words of wisdom?
No, you caught me. No, I don't.
Got through a curve at you there, huh? Just keep moving forward, right?
You got us earlier, so I thought I'd get you back. There you go.
Yeah. Enjoy the ride. That's what I would say. Enjoy the ride.
Always like that slogan you guys had. Good job. All right. Thanks, John.
All right.
Until next time, everyone, live to roll.